We should have thought of questions to ask each other.
I know. No, but I kind of have one.
I knew you would.
Of course.
You always have the questions.
The question friend. Hello.
Hello, Siri.
Olardo, as we
Olardo.
say. Oli. Yeah. So I was thinking because, thinking about my story with transness that started probably when I was born, but let's say 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. In Colombia, there were not a lot of folk that would say they are non-binary. So for me, for a long time, I had to figure out if I was a man and have that struggle with everything, like hormones or what kind of things I wanted for me. And when I came here, I think I was the first person I met with they them pronouns was you, actually.
Oh, really?
I know.
Aw,
and
sweet.
I was just like, utopia. And so I was wondering how it was for you, because in my opinion, it's just, the visibility of non-binary identities kind of recent. And so I just wanted to know how it was for you.
It was a journey. So I'm a little older than you. And I feel like I credit being able to embrace they, them pronouns with people who are probably at least a decade younger than me. So in college I did the whole Leslie Feinberg, very complex, to other trans people, he, because that shows that trans people respect you and you respect them. And then to straight people, she, because I would often be called sir or whatever, so that they can sit with their discomfort of my gender presentation.
Yes.
And then other queer people, it was whatever they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And so I used to say, my name's KT, I use any pronouns that are suitable for humans. And that's
you
what
were that person.
What?
You were that person.
I was that person. I'm trying to remember when I was the first time I introduced myself as they, them. I think though it had a lot to do with being around people in graduate school who really tried and made it a point to not. They tried to make it as unawkward as possible to use they, them.
I know you have an academic, interesting path, but for me, moving out of home, from my country and coming here was an opportunity for me to build the identity I wanted, trying out things that I wanted, because I knew that hopefully it was going to be respected, not always. And so for me, when I heard you, and then I get to, this is a thing, they, them, I was just this is my train. I got this, because as you know, we have talked about this a lot. In Spanish, it's not so easy to have this neutral. Right now, there's a very nice movement of younger people that are advocating for neutral ways of talking, but for me, it doesn't even occur to me. You know what? When you just don't even, it's just there is nothing that I can name myself with. And so when I came here, although I have all this imperialist criticism about the US and all that, I was just this is my opportunity to rebrand myself and
Well, so it was only after coming Austin that you started using they, them? States.
Yeah, I did. And I had to work as an immigrant without visa, so I had to maintain my fake name that I have in my fake card.
So you had your fake pronouns.
So I had my fake pronouns that matched the expectations of the audience.
I see.
So,
yes.
I couldn't use it at the time.
Because I feel when I first met you, I was oh, Siri is they, them.
Yeah, because I feel I'm a little a little lizard that gets really fast adapted to listening. So when I heard you saying they, them, and Google, I was this is my shit, I'm going to say it forever. So I think day 2 of like the program, I was just like, I'm they. Like I really picked it up fast.
It's so funny when you talk about in Spanish, there not being an equivalent, which I still think like to a lot of English speakers, the singular they them really bothers a lot of people. And I have to say, like, Shakespeare used they them, they as singular. Even before Shakespeare, it was very similar to the pronoun you, which can be both singular and plural. Then when I say that and people still emotionally struggle, then it's like, okay, then it's about the gender and it's not about the language.
Right. Because it exists.
Yeah. And I think like in the 90s we were a little bit more aggro about it. So I flirted with the many pronouns that we were trying to invent.
Like zer and
like zir and zir and all that, which was also like it was the decade of the WYMMYN, etc. All the different ways of spelling it. So I feel like that is kind of has been my English version of this, what the Spanish gendered into the grammar issues that we've talked about.
Yeah.
And I also feel like it's different because the Zizir, it felt really forced, whereas like, I think you just naturalize gender neutral Spanish as a human. As the person who's like literally one word by one word teaching me Spanish. Yeah,
so as I started to discover that in English is a thing, got all excited about it, and then got misgendered in another language other than mine, and so 2 misgenderizations. And so that created, so some like difficulty for me, and I think it's a journey. It has been a journey for me because at the beginning I was triggered and I was just like froze because of a trauma response that I have, so I wouldn't be able to correct the person. So I was just like, this is bad, it hurts. And so then I started working on myself better, and so I would say it very aggressively.
Right.
Then I kept working on it, and I am like more compassionate about it. But I feel like that is a privilege to have that compassion. It's like, how extenuating are your circumstances right now that you're not gonna fucking jump in on another person and say like, there's not my pronoun, or you're like having a good moment and you can say compassionately, and explain it and blah blah. But for me it's difficult, and for in Spanish, for example, because gay community is so resistant to this. I would make them tell me he, because I just want them to, because I assume I'm a she, so I want them to say he, and so similar to what you were saying at the beginning. And so I guess here, I don't feel that necessity anymore, but it's just like it hurts all the time, and it's tiring to every time have to explain, and like now I have had many presentations, gender presentations, you know them, some of them, and so now I'm a more femme, and so the assumption is she, and I have to be like, but like the very first person you met and you already have to explain something, put a boundaries, that creates an awkwardness. It's always hard. Yeah. But like, you know.
It's negotiating how much to do is really like constant. And I tend to find myself more figuring out how to do that around other they, thems in my life. So for example, it happened yesterday. I was on a Zoom with all complete strangers, but there are a couple people who like had their name, they, them. And so one of them asked a question, and they asked me a question, and I responded. And then someone else was like, oh, when so-and-so, blah, 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 she was blah, blah, blah. And I like clocked it, And there are some situations when I would just say they, like real quietly. And I kind of wish I was more of that person, because like if the more you practice it, the better you get at being like kind of like firmly detached to the action. It's still a very emotional moment. So I mean, instead what I did was like I listened to the person misgender someone, and then I was like, oh, that's very interesting, and as quickly as possible I was like, so-and-so was talking about blah, blah, blah. When they said that, I thought blah, blah, blah. As quickly as possible, I modeled the correct gendering. And I get very protective about other they, them people. For me, I often find myself in situations where if people misgender me consistently, I am like, this is not a situation where I really am going to invest in like whatever energy it will create. So, or I'll like continue, and I'll just say, hey, as a reminder, everybody, I use they, them pronouns. I know sometimes it's difficult, and I really appreciate you just trying. But it's taken a little bit of time, and sometimes I still misgender myself.
For real. Well, we even say